I'm gonna be honest with all of you. Many of you may be in a position to where you've hunted down a good relic set for a specific unit. Maybe you built them out with a good SU set, good blank normal relic set, and specifically geared them to take into account the buffs they're getting over time. In this instance, my Seely's accounting for the 12% crit from this, the additional crit from Sparkle's own Light Cone, her own E1, which gives her 15 crit, Silver Wolves, etc. Maybe you farmed for ages. I want to tell you, sets usually aren't that important. Now, don't get me wrong, the Quantum set is great, but the Quantum set gains significant value with Death Shred, which is only what Silver Wolf is providing. The other two units don't need it, so only these two need it. And in Silver Wolf's case, before E2, you don't really need that, so it's only Seely. Mind you, Seely only gets the additional or primary bonus of the Quantum set and the additional scaling of it if the enemy is either A, Quantum weak, or B, already has the Death down. In which case, it's only going to be single target because Silver Wolf is only targeting one unit. Now, this works great with something like Sparkle E2, but Sparkle E2, once again, scales higher with Silver Wolf. And so, if you're looking at the Quantum set in particular, please keep in mind, this Death Down sounds good, this Death Ignore sounds good, but it really only gains significant value when it's stacked and stacked and stacked. This is why Pella's so great. Jingli was the same case. This is nice, this is wonderful, but honestly speaking, compared to Jingliu's best F2P option, you'd get more value out of getting Blade his own Light Cone because he has less options, comparatively speaking. And so if we're looking at Light Cones, there are a bunch of them, and some of them have great value. But also consider the restrictiveness of them. 18% crit, great, but who's basic attacking, bluntly speaking? And yes, this went off on a tangent, very briefly. But for the vast majority of you, I know a lot of people who are kind of suffering through relics and hate relics because they're looking at something like, oh my god, I hate farming for an SU set because SU sucks in terms of farming. It does, and I understand your pain. But please consider this. In the vast majority of situations, if you're confused about relics in any particular order, you could just say go on to Pridwin, open up a bunch of tabs, like myself, immediately head to the build tab and see, just for your own personal clarification, there isn't much difference in the damage output. Mind you, this is optimal setup, and these are with regular stat types. For instance, in Dan Heng's case, yeah, there's about a 7% difference between inert versus rutilant, but if you have a far better inert piece, it doesn't matter how good Rudolant's set is if the subsets are trash. With Seely, for example, 100% here, but a two-piece combination, and mind you, Silver Wolf is applying more than one debuff consistently, it's a 6% DPS increase, or difference at least, versus Musketeers, which is 7. So honestly speaking, just go for Musketeers. Mind you, yes, this scales linearly with def increase and def ignore, but Musketeers is arguably more flexible for the vast majority of your units. Seely versus Rudolance versus anything else doesn't get much difference. Look at Clara, that's a 1% difference between these two sets, and you likely have more Rudulant arena pieces. So yes, this is for your own personal clarification, but if you're looking at any of these sets, I understand you want to focus on certain things, like maybe you want to get crit, or maybe you want to get out, or you're looking at this effect or this attack bonus. In this case, the crit from here, the damage bonuses from here. I understand these are valuable, but this isn't Genshin Impact. Sets aren't inherently impacting your character's kit as much as you think they would. I understand you have new ones. Jing Yuan is great, and DOT only scales off attack percentage. And so in this instance, you're only looking for something like effect hit rate and speed boots, because crit doesn't matter, and this is arguably better. But in most scenarios, your set isn't going to make or break your build so much as your subsets are. If you're looking at a DPS, hypothetically, let's go over to my QQ, wherever she is. QQ. I understand on QQ's case, she's getting a decent amount of value from like the Quantum set, but if we're talking about defense down already existing, Silver Wolf's only applying that to one enemy. And so she's not getting significant value from this set in particular. And in that case, I could go better off switching her with Musketeers if Musketeers has better substats. Sets, they matter. They're important. However, for certain units, the set doesn't matter nearly as much as the overall stat distribution. Other units gain significant value. Blade's case, his set is already resin efficient to farm, it's already universally applicable to any healer, any supportive unit who wants HP, and it gives him crit, making it way easier to build him out. A lot of you probably have really good Blade pieces. So I would instead say, if you're looking at a character and you're like, well, this is apparently the best in slot, please consider how valuable that is. Do you want to race to resin on it? Who else would it be valuable for? And if you can't think of anyone else, just farm a more efficient domain, because unless it gives some extremely good effect bonus, defense ignoring, it's probably not worth it. And you can also run two-piece combinations, such as Prisoner and Deep Confinement. That's 12% attack increase. Run that Musketeers, that's 24%. So just consider how unique and valuable is that set effect. And let's go back to Pridwin, because I know a lot of individuals kind of use that as the baseline. And let's look at a character who actually has a unique set. and that would be Jing Yuan. We can use Dr. Ratio to simulate someone like Acheron. In Jing Yuan's case, this is a 6% DPS difference between the 4-piece Band of Sunzling Thunder. Mind you, that's 13% with Musketeers. So in Jing Yuan's case, that's a 10% difference with optimal substats. And essentially, if they're all interchangeable. If you have equal in the exact same substats here versus here, yes, this is a 13% damage increase if you go up to Ash Blazing. But if Ash Blazing has garbage substats, Musketeers will always be better. In Dr. Ratio's case, 107 here, down to Ash Blazing, which is 100, down to no set, or just Ash Blazing here with either the secondary 2-piece combination, that's 95. So once again, like a 13% difference increase. Well, not a 13%. Yeah, like a 13%, basically. Or just go with Musketeers. Honest to God, just farm Musketeers. It is so universally applicable because the set bonus applies to both your own DPSs and the 6% speed is the equivalent to the 2-piece of Messengers. Musketeers is so universally applicable that you can farm it, and this healing set works wonderfully for any healer. If you're confused and concerned about that, honestly, just go for Longevous. I know people won't take advantage of the HP, but if they're getting hit in the slightest with AoE attacks, that's 16% crit. If you're worried about that and use a lot of debuffers, you could just go with Pioneer of Dead Waters. Looking at my Misha, Pioneer of Dead Waters, 1 debuff, mind you, that's a 12% universal damage applicable appreciation, 4% crit no matter what, and then additional crit if the enemy has more debuffs. Just use a Pale or a Silver Wolf and you're golden in that instance. Farming too many specific sets will leave your account very, very sporadically valued. Your units like Sealy and Silver Wolf who want a specific set, in this instance Quantum, may be really strong, but the units who want a different set may be much weaker comparatively speaking, because you didn't farm that out until months later. Whereas if you farm Musketeers, everybody's sitting on a decent baseline that you can slowly improve on and see, okay, well, if this instance is happening and everyone's on Musketeers and my Kafka's always dying or my Kafka's damage isn't high enough, let me farm out her specific set. Because every other character is already doing decent, but Kafka could use the improvement the most because she's the weakest link. Farm Musketeers first. Farm a decent SU set. I would recommend the Penacony set. Moth gives you 12% attack, and then yes, this damage bonus is nice, and many characters won't reach that speed requirement except Sealy, but the opposing set with it is Penacony, which is 5% energy regeneration rate for any team, any character. An additional damage bonus is quite nice because as much people like to focus on it, attack percentage and crit do have diminishing returns. The effect resistance in Broken Keel is nice too, but many characters won't take advantage of the skill damage effect as well as the basic damage effect. Ultimate or follow-up may be more reliable for them. So a universal damage bonus is quite nice. Go for resin efficiency first, then farm out specific sets based on who is the weakest league for your account. Don't specifically farm out sets when the rest of your account is so underpowered that you can't get through content. Either way, subscribe for Silver Wolf and for HoYoverse because she's the hottest character in the game, and I'll see you next time.